Let's talk about dining out. Going out to eat can be a wonderful experience and certainly a welcome change, but it can present some challenges. The best thing you can do is do some planning ahead of time. Now, most of the things I'm going to talk about today apply more to mid, moderate, and early late stage dementia and Alzheimer's. They really don't apply to early stage dementia. So let's get started. First, let's start with 6 things to consider when choosing a restaurant. First, is this a familiar restaurant? Your loved one is more likely to recognize an old familiar, so to speak, and they may be more comfortable at an old haunt. What is the environment like? What is the noise level like? That's a big one, right? We want to kind of look at and consider restaurants that have a more subdued and quiet environment. Is it easy to navigate through the restaurant? This is definitely something to consider, especially if there's a wheelchair involved. And is there live music? Now, this could be good and bad. So really loud live bands, probably not a good idea. But if there's a nice acoustic guitar and singer or a jazz band, this could be really lovely for the both of you. And we do know that music is great therapy for our dementia loved ones. Are reservations possible? And I highly recommend making a reservation for both lunch and dinner when deciding to go out to eat. It just eliminates another step of waiting, right? We want to keep things kind of moving along. So if you've got a reservation, you get there, you sit down. You don't have to wait for a table. Does the restroom meet your loved one's needs? Again, considering if you need wheelchair access and how to get through the restaurant, and also is it a one-holer, like a one restroom situation that you can go in and help, which would be ideal, or the stall's big enough? All of those things are factors. Is it a quick service restaurant? So some of these fine dining restaurants tend to be a little bit more relaxed and slower paced, which is great for earlier stage dementia, but if you're further along in your journey, this might not be the best idea, and you might want to opt for a quicker service. So the bottom line is you want to choose a restaurant that suits your loved one and your situation best, with all of these factors considered. So here are some simple planning tips now that you've decided to go out and dine. So choose a good day to go. If you have a routine in place at home, you should have a pretty good idea of how your loved one is throughout the day, and you want to plan around that, your loved one's good time periods. So if you are traveling and your only option is to dine out, an alternative is to do takeout or delivery, and I highly recommend delivery. It's great, especially there's delivery services like DoorDash, and Uber Eats is a good alternative. And if you're in a city that doesn't offer, or a town that doesn't offer either of these, you can do a Google search for dining delivery, restaurant delivery services, and you'll be able to find options for you. Again, as I said earlier, plan around your loved one's good periods during the day. And earlier might be better to go in general because it's going to be less crowded, right? So quieter, and also you'll tend to have quicker service. Now, if you are going to plan to go later, you might want to encourage your loved one to take a nap. Make a reservation. Already said that. Highly recommend. Ask for a quiet table near the restroom or outside. Now, this is a great option outside for conversation, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but it's really important to keep conversation flowing. You want to review the menu ahead of time. So most restaurants, if not all at this point, do have their menus online. So go ahead and download those, look at it, pick out 2 choices for your loved one, and talk about it before going to the restaurant. So say, hey, would you like to have the chicken Alfredo tonight, or the steak Diane, or whatever their options are? And use the second choice as a backup plan, just in case they don't have your first choice. And also have your meal choice in your head. So you can just skip the whole menu thing altogether. Again, kind of keeping things moving along, eliminating steps. So some things you might need to consider to have on hand. Again, this is for, later stages in dementia, moderate, mid, and early late. This is not something you need to consider for early stage at all. You want to maybe have some wipes and or extra towels on hand so you can kind of clean up if there's any accidents or spills or things like that. Additional bathroom supplies. So if your loved one is having some issues with incontinence, definitely want to have some extra supplies on hand. Classy Pal. I love these things. They are a stylish cover-up. Essentially, it's an adult bib. I hate using that word, but they're great. I used them for my mom when we would go out to eat, especially when she was in more moderate stage. and they are terrific. So here's what the women's looks like. So it's a fabric cover up. It has an embroidered pearl necklace, so it looks really classy and really lovely. And then here's the men's options, and they're not expensive, and we do have these available in our store on our website. Any special dining utensils that your loved one may need. So as we mentioned in activities of daily living, you might need extra different utensils, or if you've got the suction plates or the colored plates, anything that makes things easier for your loved one, go ahead and bring those along with you. Most restaurants, if not all, are very accommodating when it comes to using your own utensils and plates and things like that, especially if you have a loved one with dementia. And it also helps with familiarity for your loved one. So these are things that they recognize, and it might be a better experience for them and cause less agitation and anxiety and frustration for them. If your loved one still enjoys wine, especially if they're in earlier stage, they may still be enjoying wine with dinner, as my mom did. She was a wine enthusiast like I am. One thing I did was I got plastic stemless wine glasses and would bring those to the restaurant. One, they're a lot easier to handle, they're a lot lighter weight, and they don't break, which is definitely key, because I had a couple of occasions where we had broken glasses. So this eliminates that. And if your loved ones still can, use this ones with the stems, go ahead and get those in plastic as well. Those are available. Bring some Please Be Patient cards. Those are in your downloadables in this lesson, and you have those available for the staff and servers if necessary, if you need to utilize those. Bring an extra sweater in case they get cold. And a change of clothes. Probably won't need it, but it's always good to have a couple things on hand just in case. I'm a big advocate of being over-prepared so that if anything happens, it's easy to handle. And you want to have a bag of tricks on hand. So this is stuff you want to have just in case your loved one becomes anxious or agitated, or some unexpected noise happens that you need to distract your loved one. So some ideas are headphones, maybe a small craft, maybe a small game like cards or something that you can engage and play together. And if you're traveling and you need to do a little distraction, this is a good time to look through your photos of the day and kind of reminisce about what you did and laugh about photos and all that and have some fun with it. Bring some disposable cleanup bags. As I mentioned, in traveling, you want to clean up after yourself. It goes a long way with the staff, whether you're on an airplane or a restaurant. And sometimes our loved one can be a little bit messy, and maybe sometimes we can too. I like to splash around in my food. But clean up after yourself, especially if there's stuff on the floor. Just go take a little time, clean up, put it in the bag, and dispose of it. So once you're at the restaurant, here's what to do. We've made a reservation, so now we want to remind the staff that we would like a table near the restroom or outside. And this is when you would present the staff with your Please Be Patient cards. When you get to your seat, have your loved one sit with their back toward the noisy or busy areas of the restaurant, so they don't have to see all this stuff going on and that might cause a little bit of anxiety and unfamiliarity. They can focus on you and more of a serene background in front of them. Here's where you want to tell the staff about any special needs. So anything like if you need extra napkins or different utensils, extra utensils, or maybe a cup with a lid and a straw, anything that can help you out during your dining experience. And this is a good time to mention that your loved one has dementia. Then it's time to don your Classy Pal, and you may need to buy one for yourself when you start doing this initially, because your loved one might be like, I don't need this, especially if they're earlier on, kind of mid. You might be like, no, let's put on our fancy restaurant topper. That's what I used to call it. And I had to put one on to get my mom to do it. And then eventually I didn't have to do that anymore. And she would say, where's my fancy restaurant topper when we'd go out to eat? So it became familiar to her, and she liked wearing it. So food for thought. Ask the server to only fill your water glasses half full. Again, so they're lighter weight, easier to handle for your loved one, or ask for a pitcher of water so you can handle all of the pouring of water yourself. Order an appetizer right away. You've already looked at the menu, right? So you have an idea what they have. When you sit down, you talk to the staff, you tell them your needs, and your loved one's got dementia, if you choose to say that, and order the calamari or whatever they've got. So you've got something coming out right away. So and to make it a finger food, so your loved one can be engaged, and you've got them active in something immediately. Kind of again, keeping things moving along and keeping their interest level up. And like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about outdoor, you want to make sure that you keep the conversation flowing. So there's a couple reasons for this. One, talking through the meals strengthens cognitive function, and it can help your loved ones stay more grounded. And bottom line, it's just more enjoyable when you're talking to the person you're having dinner with or lunch with, correct? So you want to have some starters, conversation starters in your back pocket to keep the conversation flowing. And you may be saying to yourself, well, what are some conversation starters? Well, guess what? I've got some ideas for you, and here they are. So what was your favorite activity today? So this is something you can build on, right? So this is get it going, and you want to keep open-ended questions, right? Stay away from yes and no because those go nowhere. So open-ended questions. Another idea, tell me about something. Tell me about your grandkids. Tell me about when you were in high school. Tell me about your wedding day. Tell me about your favorite vacation. You get the idea. Have a conversation around their reality. As we keep saying in this course, oftentimes you're going to need to step into their reality in the time period they're living in and just go with the flow. Like I gave an example in another lesson where my mom thought she was going to be getting married to my dad, and she spent a lot of her time during her dementia journey in the 1960s. So during one of our lunches, I did this a couple of times because, she wouldn't remember that we had already planned it out, but I brought brides magazines and floral magazines where we'd go through and we would plan out her wedding. Have some fun with it, right? It's like, this is like a time to be an actor and just have fun with your loved one. And honestly, I really enjoyed it. I found out I'm a heck of a good wedding planner. Might be a second career. Another idea is, how would you like to spend your birthday? Or if there's a holiday coming up, you can talk about that. Where should we go on our next trip? We just talked about travel. Maybe now's the time to kind of dream and talk about where you might go on your next trip, or just like reminisce about old trips. What would you like to do tomorrow? That's a simple one. And if you're outside, I mentioned this earlier, you can engage in some observational conversation. So there's lots of things outside to talk about: birds, flowers, passersby, shoppers, other diners, kind of thing. And there's just lots of opportunities for conversation when you're outside. So what happens if your loved one gets the moody blues? And what I mean by this is like, something happened. They're like, I'm uninterested in dining with you. And they're just kind of cranky pants mode. This has happened to me, and that's why I put this in there. This is from my own personal experience. So one of the things, this is just what I did, is you wanted to remember to keep that joyful approach. Like we're saying, how you come to the table with what you're going to be talking about and how you react with your loved one is going to really guide how the evening or any event is going to go for you. So one of the things I would do is I would talk about how delicious and how yummy my meal is and ask if you wanted to buy, like, hey mom, this chicken Alfredo is amazing. Would you like to try it? And generally she wouldn't engage on the first one. And I keep doing that and be like, oh my gosh, mom, seriously, this is the best chicken Alfredo I've ever had. Here, have a bite. Right? So here, have a bite, rather than asking her. And then I'd give her a little bite and she would take it. She would eat it. And then I would keep eating, and I encourage us to keep eating, and then make us, a little plate. If you got a little bread plate or their plate, grab their plate and put some on their plate and give it to them and start asking, like, isn't this amazing? Isn't this some of the best chicken Alfredo you've ever had? Oh my gosh. You get the idea. Keep the conversation positive, just like I was doing, and you might need to be a detective. Actually, you need to be a detective. We keep saying that throughout the course. Something happened that put them in this mood, that they shifted all of a sudden, or why, or even maybe they've been that way since you've been there. But what happened? And I'll give you an example. With one situation with my mom, I was, she got in her cranky pants, moody blues, and I noticed looked like she was uncomfortable in her chair, but I couldn't tell, or just uncomfortable. I couldn't tell what it was. Well, I was watching her body language, and it looked like, 1, she was cold. 2, there was a big beam of light coming towards her face from the window that was probably annoying because she has glasses, probably reflective and all this kind of stuff. And her chair looked a little uncomfortable for her. So I dug out that extra sweater that I brought. I'm like, hey mom, you look a little chilly. Let's put this on. And she's like, actually, I am a little chilly. And I moved her chair so she was away from this beaming light and she could actually see and she could engage, and everything shifted. She was back in the game, and we were having a nice time and enjoying our lunch together. The other thing is, if all else fails, get something that they really love. And I put order chocolate, get chocolate or something, because my mom was a freak about chocolate. Even if you said the word chocolate, she was like instantly light up and happy. So when it was, nothing's working, I can't figure out what's wrong and can't change the situation no matter how happy and excited I am and my food's great. Like, how about we order some chocolate cake or chocolate whatever? And she'd be like, that sounds like a good idea. Or she might be kind of cranky about it and I just order it, and as soon as the chocolate comes, she's happy. So that's a consideration. And if all else fails, does not happen, maybe get a to-go box and try another time. So the bottom line is you want to create an experience that is both enjoyable for your loved one and you, right? So enjoy yourself. If you have a glass of wine, order your favorite foods, have wonderful conversation with your loved one, and relax, right? And again, keep positive. We want to connect. We want to connect rather than correct our loved one. So if they, are struggling with something, they need help with cutting their food or things like that, go ahead and help them with that, but let them do things as independently as they can. And spend this time just socializing with your loved one and connecting through food and being out together. So hopefully you got some tips that are going to be helpful to you on your next dining out experience. And next up, we are going to get into holiday survival. So I will see you there.